Hello everyone and welcome to the history and hauntings of the abandoned village of Oxney Bottom. Oxney Bottom. Once being a village inhabited by people for thousands of years. But now, all that remains here are the woodland and crumbling remains, and described by many as the ghost town of Dover. Separated from the public by dense woodlands are the decaying remains of St Nicholas's Chapel. Not great in size, but now a Grade 2 listed building. The remaining church records show that in 1801 the parish had only 11 inhabitants. Apart from being mentioned in the Domesday Book, the history of Oxney's forgotten village isn't well documented and is described as being mysterious. By the year 1800, St Nicholas's Chapel eventually fell into disrepair and was used by local farmers as a barn. The only other remaining building at Oxley Bottom is the main house of Oxney Court. This house being renovated several times throughout the centuries, until a mysterious fire tore through the home, which to this day, the reasoning behind the fire remains a mystery. There are suggestions that the residents of this derelict village were victims of the plague, which wiped out the whole village. Filled with sinister stories, the surrounding woodlands are believed to be extremely haunted, with mysterious ghostly encounters being reported here for decades. From the spirit of highwaymen to a mysterious grey lady, the ghost town of Oxney seems to be home to some incredible encounters and ghost stories. Rumours and ghostly tales seem to begin in the 1960s, when a boy fell down the well here. But stories surrounding a mysterious woman, dressed in a long grey coat, being seen on the road of the A258, have become increasingly common. Throughout the past few decades, there have been so many sightings of the Grey Lady that there aren't that many people in this district who hasn't seen her. Hobbling along and scaring drivers half to death, the ghostly lady has been blamed for causing numerous accidents along this road for many decades. Riding along this road one day was a coach driver who claims to have been driving the coach when out of nowhere the apparition of a woman appeared right in front of the coach. The driver ended up driving straight through her, and then afterwards realising that nobody was actually there. A lone motorist travelling along this road had to pull over after their electrical sensors indicated that there was somebody else in the car. Now I'm sure you've all heard many stories about a Grey Lady, where a lot of places in Britain seems to have the Grey Lady haunting the grounds. But this next story is one of the most fascinating stories I've ever heard, and I'm sure you'll agree when you see this. In 1967, it was claimed that the ghostly Grey Lady boarded a double-decker bus and made her way upstairs to the top deck. The bus conductors followed her to collect the fare, but when she reached the top deck, it was completely empty. This freaked the conductors out, and the bus hadn't stopped to let anybody off. Now, a number of years ago, one of the locals, Stephen Grimstead, actually witnessed something quite unusual on his route between Deal to Dover. Okay, what do you know?
I've got a little story really. Travelling between Dover and Deal on the bus, along the journey the bus driver stopped at a bus stop thinking there was somebody there. He opened the doors as normal, as to let a person get on. That nobody came on, so he got out, had a look around to see if there was anybody there. He mentioned something about seeing somebody there, and then that was it. Just carried on with the journey, looking confused. And
who you? The driver?
The driver.
More recently, in 2018, a 17-year-old girl believes to have captured the ghostly image of the Grey Lady whilst taking photos during her walk around the woodlands. Making the news back in 2018 was Alicia Begg, who explained that she took this photograph because of the way of the light shone through the arches of the trees. And it wasn't until Alicia returned home when her cousin pointed out what looked like a woman's face and a veil of long hair. The true story surrounding the Grey Lady has never been certain, as some people say she was killed by a horse and cart in a roadside accident, and others suggest that she died of a broken heart and now haunts a location where her lover once resided. Local rumours suggest that the body of the Grey Lady lies within the grounds of the chapel graveyard, but to this day nobody is certain. Now, the grounds of St Nicholas's Chapel is supposed to be haunted by a monk, and also there was a notorious highwayman who was hanged here. Campers camping out for the night at Oxney Woods report that they are unable to light a simple campfire, and even on the warmest summer evenings have reported an unexplainable cold feeling within the woods. Oxney Bottom was once a popular area for highwaymen during the 17th and 18th century, where they would have hid behind the trees and wait for wealthy locals passing by, robbing them of their fortunes. The ghost of a highwayman is believed to haunt the surrounding woodland, with some people claiming to have seen the figure of a man wearing a mask over his face. The same ghostly figure being spotted on more than one occasion in the windows of the old manor. A group of American GIs who were returning back to base for D-Day each witnessed a stagecoach and horses appearing on the road running through Oxney Bottom, which sped wildly across the road and in front of them, and then disappeared into the trees and seemed to be following a road which no longer exists. In 1942, a man died in the woods near to the chapel, and when his body was discovered, he had an expression of sheer terror etched on his face. When darkness falls, unexplainable, eerie, childlike cries have been reported within these woods, some suggesting that the cries being the spirit of the local boy who fell down the well in the 1960s. Others believing that the sounds are more likely to be dogs at a nearby kennel. Well, I hope you enjoyed those ghost stories coming from Oxney Bottom, and I hope to bring you some more stories very soon. But in the meantime, do ghosts exist? What do you think?